All right, Bubba, we're ready to talk about family with you. Take a look around.
Oh, my word.
Is this podcast approved here?
Yeah. That is awesome.
They call him the company whisperer.
Kirk Dando.
Kirk Dando.
And Kirk Dando.
Kirk Dando.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Dando.
If you're juggling work, family, friendships, health, faith, and community, you're not alone. Most leaders I work with are spinning more plates than they care to admit. Balance is never easy. This episode isn't about getting it all right. It's about showing up. We've gathered as a family, my daughters and son-in-laws, not to say, here's the blueprint, but to share with you what it's looked like for us to be intentional, to stay connected, and to build something meaningful together over time and even during the difficult times. But more than anything, we hope it helps you pause and think about your own family, whatever that might look like. We hope this episode helps you reflect, laugh a little bit, and maybe even walk away with a few new ideas to bring into your own family rhythms. Let's climb.
All right, Kirk, we're here with episode 6, halfway through the season 1 of the For You Leaders podcast. We've got, I'm just going to acknowledge, we've got a different setup here
Yes.
with different people. Excited to get to introduce all of you here and excited for what today has in store. So we've got Kirk, we have your 3 daughters, your 3 son-in-laws. We've made references and jokes about your favorite daughter, favorite son-in-law, but now we're actually here. So we can't really make those jokes as much anymore.
That's right.
That or there's a little bit more direct repercussions. Why are we here? You know, when we talked about doing this episode, what went through your mind and why did you agree to do this?
Well, there's a couple reasons we're here. Primarily, we're here because this was your idea. and I thought it was a great idea. You know, as I get a chance to work with so many CEOs and executives and get to know them and watch them and I get to know them personally. I get to know what's happening kind of behind the scenes, or what I call behind the velvet rope. To me, family is everything. It's absolutely everything. And the people I work with, it's everything to them as well. And what I've learned is at home, you don't get performance reviews. You don't get annual bonuses. But what you do is you're left with the people that know you the closest and the best. How you made them feel. And so for our listeners today, I want them to be reminded that real legacy is not built around conference room tables. It's built around dinner tables. And my hope is that people listening today will walk away with at least a renewed, if not a new, conviction to lead their families and themselves as intentionally as they do in their business. Because at the end of the day, the people closest to you will carry forward how you led them. Good or bad, they'll take it into the next generation. This is not to, shine a light on our story. Honestly, it's really about people reflecting on their own story. You'll hear stories where, have some laughs. Maybe there'll be some tears. But we're going to talk about the normalizing the messy middle of family and the lessons learned. And we're going to talk about the legacy that we're all trying to build. Us and our listeners are trying to build going forward. But I firmly believe that it's about reflection and not perfection that creates a lasting legacy. And I want people to reflect that are listening.
Well, thanks for kicking this off. And I appreciate your vulnerability, being willing to do this. It takes a lot, I think, to sit here. And, you said that it's not about the family or anything like that. We're not trying to put a spotlight here, but I do want to call out as one of your sons-in-law here. It's a very unique setting to be sitting here, all of us in this one space, and to be able to connect the dots, right, between your work and family. And today we're talking about the most important team that you can lead, which is the family. And so that's the focus, and that's why we have all of you here. I'm excited to be included in all of that. So just to get started, this is to the girls here. What did you think that your dad did growing up?
Oh, man. I feel like I didn't know for a long time. And I feel like I asked at some point in the car.
Oh, I can remember.
Yeah. I feel like we were in the car. I can't totally remember the context or why it got brought up. But he said he was an entrepreneur. And I said, you're a manure? You're a piece of poop? Like, I was like, what? What do you do? And so I think for a long time I was very confused on what.
And I said both are accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
Sloan, what was yours? I know you've got a pretty good description about what I do.
Yeah. Growing up, my dad, when I'd have a 6th day at school, he'd bring me to his office and I'd get to see what he was doing at work. And he would explain it to me that he goes in and helps people and helps them reach their full potential. And I was like, so you basically just tell them common sense. Like, that's all you're really doing. Like, yeah. And he laughed and he's like, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. And so I think it also took me a while to really figure out what you fully did. But yeah, it's cool. I feel like I've really understood it now.
Yeah,
so.
That's really good. What about you, Lauren? What was your?
I was trying to think. There's not like a point in time or a story that was like, that was it. But I was always really curious and I always admired that like you owned and operated your own business. Because obviously I could tell other people were, working for different organizations or whatever. So I knew you worked for yourself. I knew you traveled some and got to be inside different organizations and different companies. And then really I think once I kind of got into high school and started looking at college and you kind of started explaining some of your background to me and how you got your start. And as I started to build my career and you kind of pointed out, well, here's where I'd come in, here's what I'd do, here's how I'd handle it. That's when it kind of started connecting for me. And I realized, that would be useful because there's been organizations I've even been at where I thought, oh, if you just come in and have a good talking to so-and-so, then we'd be through with this. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So whether he was a manure or an entrepreneur that did, common sense for people, what do you guys remember about your dad?
One thing that really stands out, and I was even telling him this the other day, is just he's always available. And I know he's that way for CEOs. I know it's not like a job that shuts down at 5, but we have a firm like, if you call twice, I will pick up. I mean, he can be in the middle of anything, anywhere. He's got Wi-Fi hookups on all the planes. He's always connected. So he is always available, and that's important for a kid to know they can always get a hold of their dad. And you just don't know when it's going to come up or when you're going to need him, but it does.
I feel like success was kind of noted by like childhood into college years. He was so good at providing and getting us into colleges and things like that and helping along the way for success wise. But the availability is exactly what I was thinking. I've been on many vacations and some may say it's bad, but I think he was incredibly accessible to the people he worked with and has worked with and will work with. And just very there and present, and was more than just the CEO coach or this person that kind of came in and saw the blind spots, but was somebody that was there for the early morning call or late night.
Did you feel like I was still available for you guys?
I think you learned how to come to balance that more and more every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
learned
there
how
was.
to handle it better.
Yeah. I think you wanted, because I think, and pass down the trait of people pleasing. I think you wanted to really love on the people you're working with and show up for them. And how do you balance loving and showing up for your family? How do you, balance showing up for the people you're working for and stuff? And so I think you just over time figured out how to balance that more and more.
Yeah, I'm glad you're calling that out, because it's hard. Because like I said at the beginning, families are everything, but in this day and age, we get pulled thousands of different directions, right? But if your work is growing and your relationship is shrinking, you just want to be intentional. If that's what you want to have happen, that's okay. That's not a choice I would make for myself, but you sure don't want that happening unintentionally. And that's something I thought a lot about, was like, is my work growing, but my relationships, the relationships that are going to, the reality of it is the people that work for us, the people we love and lead in our work, are going to leave someday. It's going to happen. But the people that are closest to you, they're going to carry forward something. And so what is it that you want them to carry forward? And be able to name it. And you're not going to do it perfectly. Like I said, this is not about perfection. It's about reflection. So I really appreciate bringing that up.
I would echo everything that Lauren and I kind of both said. I think it was really well said, the way that they talked about the availability. And I think there was a level of like intentionality, both with the people that you work with. I think you think so deeply about the way that your actions and the things that you do are going to impact the people around you. And that doesn't just apply to CEOs that you work with, that applies for our family. And I think also it's been really cool as I've become an adult and learned more about what you do to get a brag on it to the people in my life that want to help others in their career, and like looking for ways to do that in the mundane and every aspect of a job. It doesn't just have to be that you have to be an angel investor to impact and help people reach their full potential. And so I've even connected you with a few of my friends that really want to learn from you and are really interested in what you get to do. So I think that's been a privilege.
As a dad, you want your kids and son-in-laws to be proud of you, and but it goes beyond that. We'll talk more about that, but it goes beyond just, once again, the selfish kind of how am I reflected, but more about how do I intentionally pull out what God put in.
Mm-hmm.
What were you trying to build, Kirk? You just heard from your daughters a little bit about their perception of your work and what you were trying to kind of balance between work and building a family. So as we talk about today is, really focusing at work and at home, and how do you succeed in both of these, right? So what was it that your vision was to build these out?
One of the things that hopefully, people that have watched, the first 5 episodes, this is our 6th episode, and especially episode 1 and 2, one of the things that, growing up, I didn't have a lot of stuff modeled to me. One of the things that my mom said when Lauren was born, she said it after each of you were born, but I remember looking in the nursery and Lauren was there, and my mom said to me, she goes, "Kirk, you just need to love them." And I remember thinking at the time, like, well, of course I'm going to love them. But my mom was a deep thinker and she was an encourager. But it was kind of a little bit cryptic. And I was like, okay, that's like, how do I do that? Like, is it like I give them whatever they want? I never say no. I spoil them beyond their imaginations. Like, what if, I'm always going to love them. But I knew that my mom had a deeper meaning on that. So I set about really understanding what that meant and how to go about in doing that. And one of the things that from episode 1 and 2 is I've got to get things down to their simplest form. And the episode 1, we talked about CEO growth gauge and what is it that most CEOs and their teams are trying to do and how they're trying to grow and what that looks like. And underlying that, kind of this, what I call this decision velocity, and how do we get to that? How do we get to alignment? How do we create people that are informed? How do we get to clarity and building towards that thing? So pretty simple model, and kind of underpinning that, or what fuels that, is what we call this TEM model, TEM. And I won't go back through it all. And then in episode 2, talked about the journey to the top. What happens to a business as it grows? Well, those aren't just nice things to kind of, to ground people on. They really are at the center of the target. When I'm thinking about whether it's thinking about how we're going to show up for an offsite, how we're going to do strategic planning, how we're going to do performance reviews, all these things are kind of going towards a simple model. And that's just the way I'm kind of wired up. Well, when it came to my mom, going back to her saying, you just have to love them, I had to be like, all right, that is very simple, but very complex. And so I started watching people I really admired, people that I felt like their families and their relationships, both at work and at home, were something that I admired, and I wanted to understand what was underneath that. And then I also went to where I get all my truth from. I went to the Bible and I opened it up and understood, tried to understand anyways, and then reflected back to other people that were, spiritual leaders in my life and asked them questions and stuff like that. And I got it down to kind of 3 simple things. And I don't even think I've ever kind of simplified it for you guys in this way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So really 3 kind of fundamental things that I'm always kind of thinking about in everything I do, and hopefully the stories reflect this. If they don't, they don't. And I haven't asked girls to try to do that. But one is really speak blessing over them. And I think that whenever a father or a mother, the original, whether it's through adoption, spiritual parents, step parents, whatever it may be, I think when they speak that blessing, it is a real shield. A shield against insecurity, a shield against shame. And so speaking that blessing over them, I think the other thing is to ground your identity in God and not in what this world has to say. And then the third thing, and probably the most important, is modeling the identity that I most want you guys to have. And what that oftentimes that modeling looks most like is me asking for forgiveness because I mess it up a lot. And you guys are gracious enough to give me that forgiveness. But there are things that in the Dando family and both men and women that for, I don't know, hundreds of years that I want to put in the ground with me when I go. I don't want you guys to have to fight the same battles I did or am, because I fought well. I warred on your behalf. and you'll have your own fights. And so modeling that is really digging deep to create generational change. Like I said in the beginning here is, the people closest to you will, they'll carry your leadership forward, good or bad, intentional or unintentional. Legacy is not about what you leave behind. It's not about what's in the bank accounts. It's not about the property that you'll have to clean out and do whatever you want with. It's about what you guys will carry forward because of how I showed up.
There's decisions in life that we make that have greater impact than others. And so I actually wanted to ask you, Kirk, what are some of the hard decisions you've had to make, whether that's personally or through work, that you knew would have a big impact on your family? And what'd you learn through that?
There's a lot of decisions that I've had to make that I knew would have an impact. Getting divorced from their mom, that was hard on both of us. And there's still a great relationship there. The girls will talk about they've got a close and loving relationship with their mom. Moving, the moves that we've made,
Can you walk through those moves a little bit?
Well, we moved, when Lauren was almost 4 and McKenna was almost 2 and Sloan wasn't here yet. We lost 2 children between McKenna and Sloan. And I won't go into all the details of that, but that's why I said it was special to get her, because we really worked to get her, especially after losing. But after losing the second child, we decided to make a move to Austin, Texas, which was an incredible move. But at the time, I've never been to Austin. And so I knew that move would have an impact. And while we were there, Sloan was born in Austin. Part of the reason that we came back was she had what was called failure to thrive, where kids stop growing. And the doctors really couldn't answer why. We just coincidentally came up here for a summer to Colorado, and not here, but Colorado. Yeah.
Good clarification.
Yeah. In Colorado. And we weren't going to the doctor, and she did great. We went back, and part of what the doctors told us was, hey, if she does better there than she does here, and you guys can go back, then go back. They thought maybe it was allergies or something. They weren't really sure, but we did move back. I knew that would have a big impact. And there was a lot more around that than just that being the only decision, emotionally and otherwise. Now she's obviously healthy and fine. She's, yeah. And all 3 here live in Fort Worth, Texas now. But the decision to start a business when the kids were, 2 and less than 1 is when I, started this business anyways. I'm doing it, for 30 years now. Yeah. So there's just those life-changing moments where, I didn't know exactly what was on the other side. Part of the decisions life forced on us, part of the decisions we made without a whole lot of intentionality or understanding. But each one of those things, especially losing 2 daughters, Skylar and then Abigail, between McKenna and Sloan, that'll get your attention.
Mm-hmm. And to the 3 of you, there's obviously a lot. And first of all, thank you for sharing all of that. Reflect on some of that. Like, what were your thoughts? What do you guys remember from your childhood, and how has that played out in your lives?
I feel like something that immediately comes to mind that was a sacrifice that you had to make for work was travel. That was a really big part of your work story, and that was really hard. I think initially growing up as a child, you don't really understand why your dad has to leave and go work with other people. But I think as I got older, he got really a lot better at gauging that gap between needing to travel, but also being really present at home. He would never ever miss a basketball game of mine. He would send voice prayers in the morning, even if he couldn't be there with me to pray in the morning. And so I think throughout time, he really learned a lot through those travels and how to still be so present at home, even if he couldn't always be at home. But that was definitely, I think, a sacrifice that you had to make to see your business succeed and grow.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people that are listening have to make that sacrifice, even with the at-home work now, and people will be able to be home. That's almost even harder, right? Because now you're there. Mm-hmm. And the kids are like, well, wait, so it's almost like you're physically gone. It's like, but now you're physically there and you're having to be gone. That's a whole nother thing to wrestle with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, because of the moves, we're between Texas and Colorado, so you kind of maintained that. But I think when it came time to like look for college, like I know I only looked at schools that were in Colorado or Texas because I knew even if I ended up in Texas, like you still had business roots there and you'd be down there a couple times a month, and like push come to shove, you could come, help me or pick me up, take me out to dinner, you spend a night at the hotel, whatever I needed just to get away from campus and stuff. So like hindsight's always 2020, but I don't think like I would have made some of the decisions I made as I kind of like flew the nest had I not kind of had the security that we had two homes or kind of two home bases in our life and stuff. So even though Sloan spoke to like you having to travel to Austin and kind of maintaining a client base there, even once we returned to Colorado, it ended up really being a blessing for us to kind of have both those. And then now with us all here in Fort Worth, there's just kind of been a continuation of that same pattern.
So I think you, especially now being a parent, I wanted you to do it all and I wanted you to be perfect in every area. And now I'm realizing you have to pick your places. And I feel like you picked like vacations, birthdays, Christmases, like you picked your places. And so some nights we had Pizza Hut and we had pizza and pasta and breadsticks and cinnamon sticks. And that was good. And like that was our dinner and that's okay. I think you can't do it all. And I think you picked some really special ones to hone in on.
That's really good. I appreciate you saying that, McKenna. It's because as a parent, you know that you're failing more than you're pretty, or it feels that way, right? And like I said, you don't get performance reviews, you don't get annual bonuses, and oftentimes you don't even get a feedback loop until years later.
Well, one of the things we want to do with today's conversation is not just have just a reflection conversation, but also be tactical for our listeners to walk away with some like key things and key areas to focus and almost ask themselves the questions I get asked today.
That reflection,
Yeah, that reflection I think is key. So not knowing where I was taking this, you guys have already kind of like knocked a few of these down, which is really funny. And
exactly.
It is passed out. I'm not surprised at all by that. But what I want to do is talk about leadership at home and at work. I wanted to talk about just how you walk through the door, right? And I think that's an important thing as we talk to the leaders out there with this podcast. We give them tools. There's obviously a lot running through your mind. And you kind of touched on this earlier, actually, when you said, now that we've pivoted to like an at-home model where you're home, but you're not, right? Especially with the kids and trying to translate that. But how would you reset when you would walk in the door? Like, what would you do to kind of like shift and be like, okay, I'm going from work to now being dad?
Probably this isn't all that helpful, but it's true, is I just love being home. So my energy level would pick up when I was at home and was doing those things. Now, sure, not every day was great. Not every day I walked through the door was like that. That's not real life. But more times than not, I had to be away from home to get work done. I couldn't work from home with everybody there. That wasn't the model when I was doing it. But if it would have been, I would have really struggled because I just want to play and talk and and I would get easily distracted. So, how I would, reset myself is back to what I was talking about earlier, just kind of those things that are kind of my focal point. Like this is another opportunity to get to do it. I've always kind of lived, like I said, after losing 2 kids, I've always lived kind of like, there's no guarantee. I give a dear friend, Rocky Turner's eulogy, which we talked about in the last episode, just a week ago. I mean, 1 week from, and an unbelievable man. Literally, he didn't just live a life, he multiplied goodness. I mean, just a remarkable person. And he was taken, I guess, you could say this too soon. I mean, he was young, it was unexpected. And so anyways, I've always just kind of lived with that level of intensity and intentionality.
Yeah. Well, thanks for answering that. Girls, what do you remember about your dad's energy when he would come through the door and be done with work? Like, what was that like?
We threw him a surprise 50th birthday. And so we invited all of his closest friends, their family, everyone's over, and he's thrown up to the house. We're like, okay, everyone hide in the corner. And he busts through the door, has no clue that we're throwing him a party. He goes, Daddy's home. And like everyone just starts dying laughing. And they're like, is that how he comes home every day? Like, what in the world? And so I do think he had such a joy coming home because he knew he was coming home to us.
Well, and one of the things that's tough that people are listening is like, there was a lot of times I brought stuff home that you guys weren't aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, I was carrying the weight of the world. For whatever reason it was. And I had to, I had to have outlets where people that I could talk to, that I could kind of, get my head and heart right. Because I know, one is you didn't have the context, and 2, I wasn't going to, try not to. But, So there's times where that slid and it did get passed on, or you guys got to feel it and experience it without the context of why. And I'm sure that probably left you a little bit wondering, like, did you do something wrong, or what just happened? But that's part of it. I wish every day was where I busted through the door and said, "Daddy's home."
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, with your childhood too, I feel like you really wanted to shield us, and so oftentimes you didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe give context, or I think about basketball for me and like the fear you had for paying for my college, and so you just wanted that so badly for me, but I didn't know that, and so then we had such a hard relationship with that. But you had such a good heart, but obviously I didn't know that. Now parenting, I'm like, oh, I totally get it. But yeah, I feel like there was obviously times that were unexplained of why things were happening.
Well, I couldn't even give words to it at the time. You know what I'm saying? I was afraid and didn't know how I was going to afford college for you guys and stuff like that. And, but I couldn't give words to it. But and I think oftentimes in life and in parenting and in work, people, like I said, it's lonely, not just in the top, it's lonely in the middle and at the bottom and everywhere else. But that's a common saying. But the reality of it is, you're going to get judged out of context. You're going to get judged in a vacuum. And if people don't understand your instructions, whether they're literal and you speak them or they're not, and you're just acting them out, they may not understand your instructions, but you sure hope they understand your intentions. You better have benefit of the doubt and have earned that, because you can't demand it.
Yeah.
And that's true in business. And that's true in parenting.
Yeah, that's very true. It kind of piggybacks that, but like, as I was leaving for college, being the first to do it, and we'd figure out how it was all going to come together and get pulled off and whatnot, like you're talking about, you basically said, like, you're an investment, and like, I'm making an investment in you. And so I have dollars, I can go spend them anywhere I want to spend them. And I'm making the choice this year to send you to TCU and to pay for it. And we're going to go and we're going to do this, and you're my investment. And I, at the time, felt the weight of that, not such a heavy burden, but I was like, he's serious, and I'm going to go ahead and, I want to make him proud. But then I remember sharing it with friends, and they were like, holy cow, that is so
But that was like minor.
So that is such overkill. Like, you must just, like, that's too much. And that was the first time it even occurred to me, like, yeah, that's kind of a lot, I guess. But it was intense. And I'm assuming that's kind of a lot of what, like, the CEOs and those that have worked with them in a work setting get to see and experience firsthand too. But, it helped me rise to the occasion. And those are the expectations of the world. Those are the expectations my bosses had of me when they hired me and agreed to pay me a salary. So, like, him investing in me was only really kind of step one of many investments that have been made in me since. And so
I remember you kind of telling me that story, and I knew that people would misunderstand it, because at the surface it sounds kind of harsh, but once again, the intentions behind that is, Warren Buffett said the best investment you can ever make is in yourself. And so I wanted you to have that feeling of like, this is an investment, and it's the highest return on investment I'll ever have, is investing in you guys. I mean, this may not come across okay, but it's the truth. I don't have to do that. It's not like there's like, I'm going to jail if I don't, like, I haven't broken a law or anything. And so I wanted you to understand, like, I have all the choices, and you're my best choice that I've got. Like, I've got all kinds of choices, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you are the best investments I can make.
Still to this day, I mean, you and I have had conversations in the last month about just like the weight of that, in a good way, a good weight that I've felt even to this day, of like kind of carrying that flag. Like, I have a pride that I got that investment, you made that investment, and like still to today, you would make the investment all over again. And how do I show up? How do I lead my family? How do I pour into others to, carry that forward and make your investment worthwhile?
One of the underlying themes in all of that is that leaders set the tone. And we've talked about this a little bit in earlier episodes, but leaders ultimately set the tone, whether that's in business, whether that's at home. I was thinking, as you guys were talking, back to a press conference, and Scotty Scheffler recently was asked, essentially, hey, you're the greatest player in the world right now, right? Like in golf. You're also, as he won a major recently, he walked off the green and he's holding his son, kissing his wife, and his son has like exploded out of the back of his diaper, and she's just like, here you go. And they asked him, just kind of like, how do you make sense of all this? Because it seems like you're a great husband, you're a great dad, you're the greatest player in the world in golf right now. Like, how are you doing this? He's like, I am where my feet are at the end of the day. Like, the key for me is just presence. So when I'm at the golf course, he's like, it would be wrong of me to be sitting there worried about like, how's Bennett doing? How's Meredith doing? Like all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But he's like, when I leave the golf course and I'm with my wife or with my kids, like I'm not, you know, going through thinking about, oh, how did I hit that shot? You know, how didn't I hit that correctly or whatever? And I think it's true in business, right? Like the same thing can be true of it's easy to get home from work or leave the, you know, the home office and go into the living room and look at the emails or think about the next meeting on the calendar or the due date that you have, and to not be present, and also to do the inverse where you're trying to please the family and be there for them. And you're at work and you're in the meeting, but your head is kind of somewhere else. So I think you guys did a really good job touching on that.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think about that, Trevor, when you go? I mean, you guys don't have kids yet, but I mean, you guys, you know, first year of marriage, you guys are, you know, that's typically a fairly tough year. You learn a lot about each other. First time you had, you know, roommate Lisa with the opposite sex anyways, and now it's your wife.
Well, she's cleaner than any other roommate.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how do you kind of hit that reset button?
I think that it's something I'm learning. And I think there's like a beauty in the learning that we've talked about this a lot. Like we're exploring these things now. We have some pretty great role models to look to around us, but there's elements that you're still figuring out. And I think that acknowledging that is beneficial. And so right now, like the thing that helps me is just kind of holding attention in place where both things can be true. Like I really care a lot about my work, and I really care a lot about being present at home, and then just acknowledging like moments when we've been on dates and like it's not super fun, and I'm like, well, you know, I've got this huge project, you know, coming up, and I've been thinking about it, and I actually just can't get it off my mind. And being able to like admit that and share that, it kind of helps to. So the short answer is, I mean, I'm really not the person to ask. I'm right in the middle of figuring this out, but I hope that I'm doing a good job at like being teachable and relying on like those around me and community to like pour into that and us, and then really relying on one another.
Same what you're saying, because what you're pointing out is you guys are building a relationship that can handle the weight of the truth. You know, and not trying to make it a formula.
Yeah.
That's good. What about you, Travis? Now you guys have, you know, one son and so it's, you know, you've got a little bit different angle that you've got to hit reset because you've got Lauren and Shepard.
Yeah. I mean, I care a lot about coming home and being dad and being husband and being great at both. There's days I'm not great at that, you know, get hit between the eyes at work or something with different things. And it's just hard and to Trevor's point, I think, when I share that openly with Lauren, it always makes it better, and she can join me in that. And there's days I come home and I'm on, you know, cloud nine, or I'm able to, you know, get fully into being in dad mode, and then our toddler throws something at me when I come in the door, and it's a complete reset again. But that's, I mean, so there's no.
It's usually a ball he's funny, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
TC football.
Yeah.
He's not throwing knives.
There's no formula. There's no perfect way to do it. It's just, you know, I love the best part of my day is coming home every time. And I'm like you, I can't work at home. I do every now and then if it just makes sense logistically, or I don't have any meetings on the calendar. But you know, the best part of my day is coming home. Conversely, the worst part of my day is leaving in the morning. And so, letting that be true, I think is a good thing. It helps keep me grounded.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard the words that have been spoken over you and about you and to you by the people you work with. And so I think, you know, and I read those at your guys' wedding. I wasn't going to take anything for chance. So I reached out, and I did the same thing for Trevor too. I didn't, you weren't quite just working too much yet, but I didn't do that for you. But anyways, but the point being in all this is that you show up in a magnificent way. I know you say the worst part is leaving in the morning, the best part's coming at home, but whatever you're doing in between there is working, because you're recognized, not just because you're a great person and people want to spill a bunch of nice adjectives on you. It's because you're getting real results. They're showing up. So what about you, Spencer? You've got 3 little ones under the age of 5, soon to be 6, but still 5. Yeah, I mean, it's it's controlled chaos.
Yeah, I mean, McKenna and I, our focus is that we have 3 kids that we get to love and be there for. I would say that parenting has been probably the single most important thing to draw McKenna and I closer together. We really enjoy it together. We thrive on it. We lay in bed at night and mimic and say all the fun things our kids laugh about and say. And so it's unique that we get to be in union with one another, where what binds us together is really the time together and the memories that we're making. So separating that with work, I do work from home. And what I would call attention to in that, and I was thinking on this as you guys were talking, is that it doesn't get talked about enough how hard it is to be a stay-at-home mom. And I think that it's on the outside looking in, that looks like a life of just privilege and luxury. And from having a front row seat to what McKenna does, I always tell her she makes it look incredibly easy. And Lauren does this as well with Shepherd, just to call that out as well. But speaking for our home, to be a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids is incredibly difficult. It's the most rewarding thing, but it's incredibly challenging because you don't get those one-on-ones. You don't get the feedback. There is no loop in all of that. And more often than not, the conversations are a little bit one way as well. And so for me, what that looks like in terms of how do I structure work and show up as a dad, as a husband, and then working in a startup environment, it's in, I almost said joy, and I don't want to say that because I don't want to mislead here, but I try to look for ways during the day to go help. So if that's getting the kids out of the car, if that's cleaning the Chick-fil-A sauce off of our son's legs in the car seat as he comes home, anything like
Chick-fil-A
that.
sauce?
Yeah, exactly. And so just trying to be there to kind of intercept things, knowing that, yeah, my work is hard. And I do what I do to provide for the family, but the work that McKenna's doing in my mind is more valuable, more meaningful, and also more challenging. And so I see that as important to make sure that it's not just about the work that I'm doing just because the paycheck hits the bank account for us from my work, but that she's making deposits that will pay off way more than any paycheck could. Real quick, and you kind of touched on some of the hard things, some of the hard decisions you had to make, but I think one of those tactical things is learning from mistakes, right? Like the ability to learn from mistakes is how leaders effectively go lead their families at home and their teams at work. Can you tell us a little bit about where, maybe a time or something where you realized, okay, I'm not in the right here, I've made a mistake, and then how did you work to approach that? You kind of talked about forgiveness being something that you seek out and how you go to rectify things. Walk us through that process for you.
It's a daily process, so I've become fairly decent at it. I don't know that I have a process in my mind per se that I kind of walk through as much as it is just living enough life and watching and working with my family, but also working with the thousands of people that I've gotten to watch and learn from. Most people are trying to do their best, and no one's out there really trying to mess it up on purpose. And there's a lot of hurting people out there, people that want, that blessing spoken over them. So they have that shield when they can't fight and defend against those insecurities. And so I'm one of those people. And so when I do stuff, sometimes, I'm stubborn. I think anybody that's, that's entrepreneurial, that's driven, that's, got an intensity to them has got to have some level of stubbornness to them. And with that comes conviction. And with conviction is you think you have a point of view that you're right. But I've learned to look in the girl's eyes, look in your guys' eyes, look in other people's eyes and see like, oh man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong. And then, for me, not trying to go down a path of just beat myself up beyond reason, where I'm just black and blue bruised up from my own narrative and putting people around me. You guys are some of those people for me, as well as some other close friends that I have, that sometimes stepping back and saying, I need to own that. I need to go back and say, I'm sorry. And for me, I typically don't just ask if I'm sorry because that's me controlling the narrative. I'll ask, hey, will you please forgive me? Because that gives the control back to the person that I've hurt or that I've damaged or that I've broken trust with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I oftentimes say, would you want to forgive me?
Mm-hmm.
And let their answer be their answer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I want to open this up. Not everyone has to answer this, but just curious what you guys think about the way that Kirk has owned mistakes over the years, and what have you learned about the way that he's approached that, seeking reconciliation, forgiveness, and approaching things with humility?
Or not humility.
Or not humility.
Yeah, you can tell those stories too.
I mean, I've made my fair share of mess ups over and over again, and my 3 best guy friends are in this room, truly, and that's incredibly unique and special. We're not just family, and so I share openly to all of you, when I struggle with something or have hurt Lauren or what have you. But to have that kind of relationship with you, I mean, how many sons-in-laws can share the things that I've shared with you that are deep, they're dark, they're uncomfortable, I mean, that is a huge blessing to be able to share that. And you tell me every time, you're just like, everything you've done, I've done worse, or, done the same, or whatever it is. And so, just not feeling alone is hugely important. And so, just, can't be more grateful for all 3 of you. But it's back to your leadership. I mean, I think the 3 of us are close partly because of you. So,
well, I feel very lucky. I mean, it's, the things that you guys all shared with me, I feel very privileged. And like I said, I kind of explained how, kind of the center of the target was for me for raising the girls, but it's, same thing for you guys, the trying to pull out what God put in.
This is just about the idea of success. This is the last part of this tactical section. The idea of what winning looks like at home. And I'll ask the girls, actually, did you feel like you grew up part of something special in your home?
I feel like the closeness of us, I don't know if I would have equated it with our parents at a young age, but now being a parent, I definitely think the actions, the vacations, the dinner times, the unique things that you did bonded us more than I could have ever put words to. I don't think I look around and hear of other people and they're like, oh, I'm not that close to that sibling, or, oh yeah, I haven't talked to them in a while. And that's just like shocking to me. Cause I'm like, I think I talk to my sisters like 10 times every 10 seconds. Like it's just, we're constant. And so, just, yeah, I think you and Mom created something incredibly unique and something I pray that our kids have.
To just highlight for us, that is a generational brokenness or drift that hasn't been true, and it's something that hurt me, and I would like to pretend that I architected something. It's truly through God's grace that you guys are as close as you are, because there's a lot of stories here that aren't being told that could have completely sent us in totally different directions. Not even wanting to be here in this room, recording something like this. I mean, and so there's a lot of things that we have done, but I don't want to pretend like it's any stretch of imagination. There's not a play that was run that,
It's just something that, yeah, I mean, as being a parent now, like if I had to sit down and draw out all the plays and run them all for us to kind of recreate what we have, I don't know that I could do it, but
yeah,
it is unique and it's special. And I do feel that sense of pride. Like you said, like there is kind of a, something about being a Dando girl and being one of the Dando girls that is pretty fun. And I've always, I don't know, felt proud about. So yeah,
Love that.
I feel like it looks like different even to the outside world a little bit. Like all the friends comment like, oh, your dad sent you a voice prayer. Like every morning you get up and you send us a voice memo praying over our day. And I think that that's just so deeply unique and special to you. And even like the father-daughter trips that we've gone on, or you'll come to town and we'll get to stay at a hotel and like go have a fun dinner. And, those special memories I think are just so unique and have allowed us to be so close with you and Mom. And, my friends every other week are like, oh, your mom or dad are back in town, like they want to get dinner again. And I'm like, yeah. And I think it speaks volumes to the type of family I have because, most grown adults aren't going to the dinner with their parents every 3 or 4 weekends. And so I just think it's really cool what you and Mom have built to allow our family to be so close.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Selfishly, I get the benefit of it. You guys are just willing to play along and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, it's so true. I get asked a lot whenever we record these podcasts, and we're here in Fort Worth, Texas, and people be like, "Doesn't he live in Colorado?" I'm like, "Yeah, but like this is kind of the thing. Like he's here a lot,
Yeah.
And I know you've flown in, specifically for this at times, but I think it speaks volumes of your presence. We've talked a bit about just kind of Kirk's leadership at home, at work, what you've done to grow the family. The family hasn't just grown though; it's expanded, right? So I want to pivot the conversation here to the guys, and just talk a little bit about what it's been like coming into the Dando family, obviously marrying into the family, and all of that, and what comes with it. So, Trevor, what were your first impressions of the Dando family?
Well, so there's part of you can tell that God architected this whole thing because Spence and I met before anybody else did that's not blood related, and the three of us were all at the same camp. Spence and I met there, kind of kept in touch for the first couple of years, but then just through FCA and different being in business school, just became really close really fast, and we're hanging out all the time and still do as much as we can. And shortly after we became close is when Spencer met McKenna, and so I kind of had this privilege of watching, and then kind of on the end of it with Trevor going and courting Sloan. I remember we all went out and got a beer, and you were asking us like, how do you get into this? I mean, because you can tell they're close. You're like, how in the world do you break into this family? And Spencer was like, well, I crawled so he could walk, so you could run, and it's pretty true. You've had a straight shot.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. I hadn't heard that. That's good. Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's been wonderful to watch the story develop into what it is.
Yeah. The stories of how we all kind of came together. I want to hear kind of your experience, and I want to hear
I was going to say, Trevor has to put it in his own words.
Yeah.
His impression and experience getting integrated.
I've got quite
you're not off the hook.
I'm just like chuckling to myself hearing this because it's like, I had a straight path right into it and without any, turbulence at all. But what was your first impression of me? Was me just calling you up, telling you I wrecked your cart.
Yeah.
My first interaction.
You didn't wreck it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was planning like a really great introduction, the beginning of our relationship. I'm dating you, like I'm doing this super responsibly and respectfully, and then we take out your electric go-kart and we're driving around TCU. Yeah, golf cart, and I take a turn too sharply and scratch up the side of it, and it's kind of one of those moments where I was like, all right, well, give me the phone. Let me introduce myself to your dad and let him know what happened. So, hopefully you can trust me to take care of you a little bit better than
You're from Arizona. There's no trees. It's just all open.
Yeah.
So, but I really did lean on and appreciate more than you guys know, the two of you, like for advice and counsel and how do I walk through this path before, because it's not just the family. It's not just this family. I mean, getting married is new to me. So how do I do this right? And I really, really wanted to. And each step along the way, as I came to, obviously I was confident about Sloan, but I came to know her family members. And so McKenna, Lauren, Kirk, Trish, everyone, I came to know the others who were behind the scenes that I had no concept of up until that point. And I was really like, hey, if we're doing this thing, it's important to family's important to me. And it was important to me that I kind of knew what I was getting into. And I was just so thoroughly surprised in a positive way and blessed. And then beyond that, like how great we get along. You guys you're the guys I want to be throwing a football with my kids running around and flipping patties. And it's like, that is a joy to me, not because I'm just like forced into, your relationship with your kids, friends, parents, or whatever. But like the family that I chose to become a part of is one that I feel blessed. Every single member is incredible. And so that to me is like, it was a huge blessing.
I pulled this out of my pocket, this cross that you've given all of us is a symbol of kind of a fatherly son relationship. I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like a son-in-law. I feel like a son. I don't feel like a brother-in-law. I feel like a brother.
Mm-hmm.
In this, this cross, when you went to the Holy Land, made from the wood from the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it right. Sounds right to me.
Yeah. So just that symbol, then, I try to carry around with me of, kind of a physical symbol of, we have a common faith, a strong faith in our Savior, Jesus, what he did for us on the cross. But it's also a symbol of our family, that we're all tied together, with that being the focus and center point. I'm talking too much.
No,
You're doing great.
Yeah.
I literally almost brought that cross too, because I was like, this is one of those mementos.
I've lost two.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've lost one or two in the couch up in Colorado before. So,
you have yours, Trevor? See, Trevor has it.
oh, see, there you go. No, I don't have mine. Put me on the spot. See, there you go.
Let's see.
Mine's right on the mirror
there,
in our
there you go.
bathroom. See, there you go. Look at that. I'm the only one without one.
Yeah.
That's my fault. I wanted to add.
I want to hear how your experience coming.
I figured you were going to ask. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of, I was thinking about how to say this too, because I don't want this to come across the wrong way. Obviously, we're recording, and I honestly didn't give this much thought. The best way I would put it is I think at that time in my life, like looking back to 2016 when McKenna and I met, came up to Colorado during fall break. The day before we went home is when I asked McKenna to be my girlfriend. The very next day, my best friend from high school passed away from brain cancer. And so the light switch turned on very quickly for me with McKenna and the family, in terms of, oh my goodness, this is a different level of love and care that I haven't experienced in this way before, that I felt seen and secure and cared for. And from that moment on, I probably had this conversation with Travis. I know I had it, with people in my life. I didn't know the road to get there, but I knew I wanted to marry McKenna. So I was like, the way that just went, the week that kind of transpired after that. And in fact, Neil's funeral, I flew to Houston in the morning and then watched McKenna stand by her college roommate in a wedding that night. And it was one of the most bizarre days of my life, to start at your best friend's funeral and to end at your future spouse's, wedding that she's a part of, or a friend's wedding. And so I look back at that. And then I look at the path that went beyond that. McKenna moving back to Colorado to go get her master's from CSU, us doing long distance dating, me stopping by Lauren's apartment in Dallas and cooking dinner and stuff, getting to know Sloan as she was going through high school, and the integration into that. And frankly, as I watched, the vacations and all of like the dynamics and stuff, and just from my background, like I felt like a lot of it was I'm the guinea pig, and like we're all kind of figuring this out. And I felt like I was doing the grace giving. And what I realize now, looking back, is that I was doing the grace receiving. There was a lot that was being worked on in my heart that was being pulled through. And the way that each of you, and Trish included, received me as McKenna and I pursued our path, I'm just forever indebted to the openness that you guys had to receive me and to navigate this together. And in all of that, one of the things that the girls told me and that we would talk about is this desire. So obviously, like, you guys are close, right? Like, you're very close. But one of the things that I felt the pressure of, from day one, was that you all talked about how you want your husbands to be close. And me being the first, I felt like I set the tone for that at the end of the day. And so I prayed for the Travises and Trevors. Like I thought through that in those moments and was like, the way that I go about this is going to transform the way that a Travis and a Trevor come into this world and come into their lives and the dynamics that we're going to have. And so I prayed that I would have closeness with these guys. And so to be able to sit here and do this episode and have the real relationships that go well beyond what we're talking about here, like I am just forever grateful for that. I'm grateful for God's grace on my life through all of the mistakes and things that I, would have done differently. And just that we're here and that we have that deepness and that closeness together.
Yeah. I appreciate bringing that up. I mean, you definitely had a burn-in period that was tough, because we didn't know what we didn't know.
I think you put it gently. I think he had a hard, because we were so close. We were so used to just our five and us doing our things.
Yeah. I mean,
he have somebody else come into that was hard.
Yeah, you were gracious to stick with us through kind of figuring out how to add another team member, and you definitely paved the road for these two, I'd say.
Yeah, that the crawl, walk, run was a good.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you had it easy coming in, and not that we tried to make it hard.
No.
I mean, I hope not, but
Change is hard.
you know what? It changes. Yeah,
That's my
changes.
analogy. Is
Yeah.
like the canoe is moving.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all aren't slowing down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's our job to catch up.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
he did it better than yes. We did.
Crawl, walk,
yeah.
run. Good job, Trevor.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. So, Kirk, I'll ask you this: some open-ended questions for the leaders. So I see me and Travis and Trevor as leaders of our homes, right? And be honest with this. Like, how are we doing in your eyes? You said yes to each of us, and I did want to call this out. Like, you not just interviewed us to marry your daughters. You interviewed bosses and friends, and you flipped over as many rocks as you knew how in those moments to say yes. But we knew, and I think I speak for all three of us when we say this, like we knew when you said yes, it meant a definite yes, not a begrudging yes. And so now that you're watching us, where we are today in each of our lives, like how are we doing at leading our families?
Well, the short answer, and it sounds nice, but there's truth, and hopefully the tone carries it. Is Spencer, you're doing a remarkable job. You, like I said, each of these girls were God's daughters before they were mine, and that's what I was looking for when I was getting to know each of you and stuff like that. Not just could you provide a good living, and were you men of character and all those other things. What I wanted to know is I was going to be transferring what was a responsibility of mine to like I said, speak those blessings, to name those gifts, to model those things. And so the way that you behold and love McKenna and love your children, my grandchildren, you're doing a remarkable job. It's not easy. You're balancing a lot. Like I said, a startup business, and I've watched you, trip and skin your knees and pick yourself up, and throw yourself in the car and go meet with a mentor and pick up that book and do the hard work that I thought you would when we met, but I didn't know. There's some lives that has to happen, but all the indicators were there. And Travis, you're just a man of great heart and great integrity. You're always asking me, how am I doing with Lauren? How do you think she's feeling? How am I showing up with her? And so the way that you show up for Shepherd, you have your Saturday morning kind of, things that you do with him and the way you love him. And you said it earlier, you're doing such an incredible job with my oldest daughter, Lauren. And Trevor, man, you have got a real heart of humility and intentionality. I don't know that I've met someone that can take feedback and hard feedback as well as you do. Not that you need a bunch of hard feedback, but I'm saying you don't. You just always are looking to get better, and you're always thinking. One time, you guys live an hour away from the airport, and Spencer and McKenna lost their keys or forgot them or did something.
That was me.
At what time of night was it?
Late.
It was like 9 p.m.
Yeah, and they landed, and you jumped in the car and drove there, and that's not unusual. It's not because we're family. You just like you show up, and in the biggest way, you show up for my daughter Sloan. And like I said, my mom had this thing in her house that said "Receive a miracle." And at your wedding, I brought that out because you painted that for me, and I remember when you gave it to me, I started crying. It was just, and in many ways, Sloan is our miracle. I think everybody is a miracle, honestly. But in this context, I was handing that miracle to you, and I feel like you handled it in that way. I think you turn to these guys when you have questions. I think lean in. Every day that leave a voice prayer, you leave one back for me, and it's just, it's you're doing a really great job. I can say this with absolute honesty. You guys are doing a much better job at shepherding, loving, leading these three girls than I ever did. And that's what as a dad, like, how lucky is that? Like, super, super, super lucky.
Oh, well, thank you for that. It's super kind. Guys, for us, back to Kirk, what's something either directly or indirectly that you've learned from him that's helped change the way that you either approach your work or the way that you lead at home?
I feel like you should touch on the voice memos.
On the voice memos?
Yeah.
I think all three of them do it.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So
No, I get
mean,
one from Spencer every morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, you like. I guess it was kind of when we went off to college. We were living out of state. You started sending a voice memo text that had a prayer in it every morning, and I mean, really, pretty much every morning. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, so if you don't, I'm like, are you good?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
kind of like
Okay.
go do a welfare check. But
Yeah.
but Travis, yeah, I mean, obviously you spoke to Spencer. Travis figured out you were doing that really early on in dating. I remember it was within like the first 6 months because we were long distance the first part of our relationship, and he figured out you did, and he's like, I could do that, and so he kind of piggybacked your idea. And
But it's not even just like for us. Like obviously you pray more specific to me and Spencer, our
Mhm.
prayers now, but it's for everybody. It's for all the family members, and it's for anybody that needs prayer in your life and stuff. And so just getting to witness that, I think maybe that probably was not your example. But
Well, you said it better than I could. But what an easy use of technology and time to do that. I've also told you and called this out that ever since I've been doing that with McKenna, like I definitely have experienced the days where you're like, oh, okay, five more minutes to, go and intentionally do this. And I've never once, this is the thought I had that I told you about. I was like, I never once have heard you be like, I don't have time for this, or I don't want to do this. And I know it has to cross your mind and your heart, right? Like we're all human. And so it's the fact that you just continue to say yes and step up, and you do so with joy is, I think that's actually the more important part. I mean, showing up is definitely important and doing that, but you do it in a way that is so joyful and is easy to receive. I think that's the multiplying effect of good leadership, is that when you do things with joy and you show up with presence, other people catch on and it's contagious, and you want to get in on that as well. And so hopefully, us sending voice prayers to our spouses over, our families and others, hopefully that can be multiplied as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, I was really born out of, as the girls were raising the girls, I always wanted to, capture them first thing in the morning. Cause I think when you wake up, you're super raw. And that's when I could go kneel next to their bed and pray over them before they started the day. And at the end of the day, detox them, from the day and all the stuff that had kind of gotten on them, and pray. And then as I went off to college, I was a little bit lost. It was like, I can't, I go lean next to the bed. They're not in there. Yeah, they're at school.
Yeah.
And so I thought about, well, then I'll just send them something. So when they wake up and do that. And then when you guys came on the scene saying, well, now I need to add their husbands into this.
I've called many times in the morning to ask you a question or tell you something. And you'd be like, okay, yeah. Can you call me a little bit later? I have to get my voice memos and my Bible study and workout done. And I think you set your clock even earlier to make sure it happens. It's not just, it doesn't happen by chance that you do that every day.
No, that's very,
That's
very true. Yeah.
You're very and usually the thing isn't very important that I'm asking or telling you. So it's it can wait. But I think that speaks to it too. It's not just happening. You're very intentionally making it happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask one question to the group and one question to Kirk, and then I'll kind of bring us towards the finish line. So last question for the group, and each of you can take a chance to answer this, but what are the parts of this family legacy that you hope to pass on to kids and future generations, and parts of Kirk and his leadership, the things that you've gotten to learn from him?
For sure, it was God first and foremost, but I think secondly, it was my mom and my dad, and the vacations and the topics we talked about and the early mornings to pray over us. And there were so many grounding points, and kind of like Sloan, even when she was running through them, I was like, oh yeah, and that, the Cheyenne Frontier days. And just, there were so many things that they kind of just brought us back together. And I think that was so crucial to our relationships today.
What does the closeness get you? Because, someone listening may be saying, oh, they're holding too tightly onto the traditions, or they're holding too tightly onto those. If those change, what would they really have? What would be left? What does the closest really get?
Oh, I have relationships that I can call and say the craziest things. I was texting him the other day, just do you guys want to know the grossest thing that just happened to me? Or, you can text him, I can text or call and I can be sad and devastated about this thing, or I can tell a funny story that happened to me or my kids. And I just think about that relationship, even outside of the traditions and all those things. I think the relationship.
Yeah. And I think we're all just as human beings, we're called to be in relationship. We desire that, even if we're introverted, we still desire that deep connection. And I think a lot of times, once again, just the generational for us that happened. That was, if it was going to happen, it was going to happen outside the family. It wasn't an opportunity. And so when it happens inside the family, I think that's something that's, is a real gift.
That's a good one. I, share that same sentiment. I was also just going to say, the generosity, which Travis just kind of, started. And I think now that I'm older, now that I'm raising a kid of my own, have had a job of my own, have paid some bills of my own, I see, that you and Mom didn't just have it all at all points, and that y'all stood in the gap and protected us really, really well. But you also instilled this generosity and there's enough, and there's plenty, and there's enough to go around. And that's been everything from, want to come to dinner, they don't have enough, they don't have this. I mean, we were even out grabbing ice cream last night, and there was a young mom there with 2 kids, and you were like, is she not getting anything? They're going to get something, right? And you were like trying to go up there and get her ice cream for her, just because it looked like maybe she was kind of waffling if it was going to be a little too much, or it was unclear what the situation was. But just that awareness of what's going on around us, and that generosity of like, there's more than enough of what we have going to share with others, that we need to maintain that margin. We need to have enough to keep giving, because none of this really matters if it stops here. Like, yeah, now we're married and now we're having kids of our own. And of course, we hope that they carry this legacy forward, and that they're sitting here having these conversations plus here, a couple decades from now. But in the meantime, if we're not able to keep giving that to those around us and keep sharing this love and connectivity and the stuff that we're all so grateful for and come to really appreciate about our family dynamic, then what's it for? Then it's really just, it's being lost on us. It's being wasted. So
Well, thank you. That's very well said, Lauren.
Well, I think I'd like to affirm real quickly too, and I have some thoughts too. I need to keep track of these 3 things before, try to tie them together before they escape me.
Go ahead and do it now.
So I'll just say that, like, specifically that being important to you guys, like, we look at the Haynes and we see hospitality exemplified exceptionally, right? And so in our and Sloan and I, when we talk about our family, we talk about what we want to model. And so we talk specifically about generosity and hospitality and how we see you guys do it so well. And I think that that's fitting and hopefully like encouraging, because that's important to you. That's what you've tried to, like, you've seen that, and it's made an impact on you. And so now you display that. And I think that you do it really well, because it makes an impact on us. And then we get to go forth and do that too. And hopefully that makes an impact on others. And so it's that ripple effect through the family. And at this point too, like, specifically where that feeds into, I think we'd be remiss to not talk about what the generational blueprint is, right? Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
So, no, specifically, like, when you talk about intentional and you talk about this family and something that's surprising. So I'm like, hey, how do I do marriage and well? And I ask you that. And you said, well, let me share something with you. I get a little shared, Kirk Dando, shared a file with you. I opened it up. How many pages is there? Is it?
I don't know.
It's probably like 40.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the original.
So the idea is there's an insane amount of, you like wrote that all yourself, and what it is it's as much as a guidebook as you were able to come up with on how to live in and lead a family well, and how to look at the things that you're going to value, that you're going to align yourself to tether your rope to. Where are you going to constantly look back to? What's the scoreboard of your life look like? Like, what are we actually measuring? And then how often are we looking back and seeing how we're doing with what we say is important to us and what we want to achieve? And so, yeah, specifically tying that all through to one another, that's something that Sloan and I look forward to doing every single year, is going in and creating a PDF and creating a document that documents what are our pillars of our family, what are our values, what's our verse, what are we going to hold fast to? And one of those, attributes are, we talk about hospitality being important to us. And a lot of that, it comes from just looking at you guys. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything that everyone's really said. I think Lauren and McKenna both said it very well, of just echoing off of what they said, of a deep intentionality and an empathy that I think leads to both the generosity and the closeness that our family gets to share. Like, I shared the example of you waking up at 4 a.m. to make sure that you could wake me up in the morning, or even looking outside, and when we have friends over, like you're the one running around making sure everything's pristine and ready for them, because you care so much about the time that other people are having. If they're enjoying themselves, then you're enjoying yourself. It's not about if you can sit back and see it all happening. It's that you want to be the one raking the sand and hanging up back up the life jackets and covering up the boat after everyone's done, when they're all sitting by the campfire, sitting in the hot tub. And I think that's a picture of like what I want to bring to our family, is one, like serving others. And that goes alongside with what Lauren was saying about generosity, of just, we have enough, and like, how can we pour that out upon others? And I think you do a great job for us 3 girls, but it's beyond our family. It's not that you just get those 3 girls by helping with vacations or, investing in our college or the things that you did, but, you look for the people outside of our family too. And so that's something we definitely want to emulate. And then, yeah, just that closeness aspect, that intentionality of sending the voice prayers, or, what Trevor was talking about, that generational planning is this outline that you and Mom went through a long time ago that you've passed along to us girls, that we now implement into our family. And it's our, guiding light of what are we moving towards. And we sit down once a year and we talk about, what are our goals for this year? What do we want to be moving towards? What are our pillars? Are those still the things that we're moving towards, or has that shifted? And, having that annual alignment. And so I think you really implemented that in us well. And I think that kept a lot of our closeness too, because there was always a check-in point. It wasn't like we were going 5 years without checking in. Like, how are we doing? Are we remaining close? Are we spending time together? Are we, having the real raw conversations? And so that's something that, I want to emulate and do. And just ultimately like having the close relationship that we can lean back on. Like, I think that there's such a foundation that our family has, that I know if life is hard or things are going bad, I have something to fall back on, and it's our family in Christ, because that's what you put as our foundation.
I'm typically a big crybaby, and you guys know that. And this is hard to hear these words and have this mirror held up, because I know, like I said, you guys are being way more gracious. We could spend another 2 hours telling stories of just how messy and how rough it really was. And so your kindness means the world to me. But if you can lead your business with clarity and intentionality, you can lead with your family with love and kindness. And part of being loving and kind is taking time to step back and say what matters. And are we pointing our resources, whatever we have, a lot, a little, in the middle, doesn't matter. The most valuable resource we've had, and what you guys have said, is the gift of presence.
I just wanted to add laughter. I think is something that I want to always have in our home and carry forward, and something that y'all have done immensely well as Dando family members. I mean, there's brokenness and there's things, but the gift of laughter. And how does laughter happen? It's when you're with people you love and you're doing something that you love.
You have to learn to take a joke.
I like being the butt of them, but I mean, I think that's something that has been modeled with y'all, and something that I want to make sure our house always has an element of laughter and a lightness to it, and something we want to carry forward. And the best way to do that is make sure we're creating memories. We're out doing things. We're doing things together, and we're loving each other, and doing the things we love.
What about you, Spencer?
I wanted to touch back on the blueprint thing for a second too. One of the things that you've said that I want to make sure gets noted in that, this idea of like kind of saying, here's our family pillars, values, the things we want to tackle. And each of our families has adapted this plan, right? And this process really of creating intentional time to sit down, once a year. And then whether that's, we talk about this in the day-to-day, we have a monthly or quarterly check-in on it, right?
You guys have Friday family meetings.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not meetings, but dinners. But I mean, it's,
and well, that's one of the.
You're around the dinner table.
No, exactly. That's one of the traditions, right? Like part of that conversation is actually like, what are the traditions we want to have? And frankly, the conversation when we did our first, plan together was, okay, we were pregnant with Briggs. We didn't have him yet, so we didn't know what we didn't know, and none of our friends were pregnant either. So when we look back at, what was it then that we would have wanted? That's very different than now, right? Like now it's like, oh, we need to intentionally plan a fun family Friday is what we call it. And so we sit around and we'll have family meeting, and then we'll play a game of some sort, let the kids pick a game. So that's changed. But one of the things that you've said that I want to note in this too is the goal is not to over corporatize this, right? Like this family strategy approach. The goal is to give things that are meaningful the due resources, time and effort and energy that it deserves. And so that's what I would want to live, outlive this family and generationally go down is I think that this family does a great job in unique ways and in similar ways of focusing on what matters most and making the most of that. And so with authenticity of, letting God's grace run over things and, learning, like one of the greatest lessons I feel like I've learned to date is that your brokenness is God's greatest asset. And so you don't need to come and try and perform and present yourself as anything. And this family does a great job of receiving that. So taking that and then just the ability of, sitting together with the ones you love and care about most and saying, what are the things that are most important to us? Where are we going to dedicate our time and our resources and our energy? Because the reality is these things that we talk about, time, energy, money, it's all expiring at some point. Like you said it earlier on, legacy it's not the bank account, it's not the house that you hand off, right? And the things that go with us, it's the meaning, it's the relationships, like you guys talked about. It's the impact that you leave through loving people. To go back to your story about Gran, your mom, I think about how you said, just love people, right? Just love them, learn how to love them. And that's what, when McKenna and I learned we were pregnant with Briggs, like you were like, hey, just love them. And at the time it was like, you say overly, what is it?
Overly obvious, embarrassingly
obvious
simple.
and embarrassingly simple.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly how I felt, looking back, it's like, oh, wow, like this is actually, it's complex, but it's also simple. So yeah, just giving things that have meaning, that do credit, I think is important. I think this family does a good job of.
I often say nothing impacts someone's health, wealth, and happiness more than a leader. But I really don't think there's anything that impacts a child's life more than someone that's willing to speak blessing, to identify that identity in them and model those things with great intentionality. Because the truth of the matter is, this isn't the world according to Kirk. I say this to people: you're leaving the business someday. You're either sipping champagne or you're on a stretcher, but you're leaving. And it's the same way. We're going to leave this earth at some point. You're leaving a legacy. There's some people that leave a mark, and there's a few that leave a legacy. And so if you're going to do that, be intentional about it. And so that's, and it is a messy journey. Anybody that's living here, that's living, scrolling through the things on Facebook and think that that's real life. No, that's not. It's messy behind the curtain, behind the velvet rope, and it's worth it.
Well, you answered my last question, which was just going to be, how do you do this? What would you want? And I'll give you an opportunity to add to that real quick. Is there anything that you would want, just hearing what we've said about what we hope to leave in our own legacies and generational impact? Is there anything we haven't said that you would hope to see?
No. Well, no, like I said, I just don't want you guys to have to fight the same fight I fought, because I fought well, because I took, into the ground with me the things that generationally, I don't want to punt them to you. And they've been punted to me, and they're going to end with me. And I'll take those to the ground, and you guys fight your own fight. And I hope and you guys are set up to do it because of who you are, and because of the God that you follow, and because of the people you put around you, and those things. But that's, for me, it's, I just, like I said, there's a lot of things I war against that I don't want to punt to you guys.
Well, you've done a great job. And I want to call out that one of the things you said earlier, and you've kind of sprinkled in here and there, is that words are so crucial and important. And we believe that too. I pulled up a verse I wanted to read here. Proverbs 15:23 says, "A man takes joy in a fitting reply, and how good is a timely word." And the verse right before that, so verse 22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed." For 30 years now, you've spoken words over people. You've been the one to deliver that fitting reply and that timely word. And you've done that for 16,000 people. We want to turn the tables on you for a minute here. I've asked each of your family members to write a letter to you.
This is going to be tough
to read to you on this episode. But yeah, I mean, true to who you are someone who listens tenfold before speaking. And so I'm going to pass these out, and we're going to read this over you, just to encourage you and celebrate 30 years of your work at home and at work. Okay.
I'm crying before I even start reading it.
How do you know it's going to be nice?
Well, I just, you took the time to even do it. Like, it's even like this, the intentionality.
All right. So we've each got our letters to you. Sloan, Trevor, we're going to start with you guys. Sloan, do you mind starting us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Dad, congratulations on 30 years of serving more than 16,000 people through your work at Dando Advisors. For 30 years, you've helped others realize their potential. You've also been a steady and consistent leader at home for the past 33 years. You always made us girls your top priority. You've led with intention through morning prayers, lake days, campouts, and even in how you pursue relationships with our husbands. I'm eager and excited to carry on your legacy. Your story reminds me that a life of impact does not have to be perfect, just faithful. I love you, and I'm so grateful for the example you've set for us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I love
you
you.
so much.
This is.
I'm going to give you a hug, but I'll do that.
I know. Thank you.
All right, Trev.
All right. Kirk, to the business world, you're the company whisperer. You've been a force multiplier behind the growth of countless companies and the calm in the storm when leadership gets hard. But to me, you're Bubba, which is all of that and so much more. For You Leaders is not just a podcast title, but it's the heart behind your entire career. You've taken decades of hard-won experience and used it not to elevate your name, but to pour wisdom, encouragement, and truth into others who need it most. May the seeds you've planted continue to multiply for generations to come. Thank you, Kirk, for everything.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Trevor. This is a lot. Thank you.
Dear Daddy, I want to start off by congratulating you for the 30 years in business and serving thousands of people along the way. You took the late night calls, early morning texts, frantic emails, and so much more. You were and are more than just a CEO coach. You are a confidant, your mentor, a friend, a leader, a listener, a champion, and someone who gets in the trenches. As someone asked me, what were some of the most fundamental parts of your upbringing? One that is at the very top of the list would truly be that our family was operated like a business. That might sound bad, but it truly was one of the greatest gifts you gave me and helped me pass along to my family. You extended yourself more times than I can count for Mom and us three girls. So again, I'm beyond thankful that you ran our family like a business. Like the famous Michael Scott once said, would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that not only our family is afraid of how much they love you, but I know thousands of people that you have coached would be lined up right behind our family to tell you how afraid they are of how much they love you. I love you beyond measure, Daddy, and I could not be prouder of you and the impact you've had on so many.
Thank you,
I
sweetheart.
love you.
I love you.
I'm going to go here. The real reason that leaders love and remember you isn't because you gave great advice or because you helped make them rich or successful. You focused on the critical importance of defining what winning looks like at work and at home. And you've led by example, pouring yourself out to invest in the lives of your daughters and their families. The ripple effect of that kind of leadership and presence will well outlive your lifetime. And remember this, you've done more than enough. You've been faithful with all the gifts that God's placed in you, and you've made us all proud. And you've honored your mom's words and made her proud too, because you've built, a life of legacy that carries forth God's highest good, his highest purpose and highest will, not just to this generation of leaders and families, but to the 10th. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm deeply grateful for you. We all are. Me, your family, and the more than 16,000 leaders that you've guided with strength and humility over the past 30 years.
Thank you, Spencer.
Lauren, do you want to
I
go?
was trying not to ugly cry.
Hey, Daddy. I'm so excited and proud to be celebrating 30 years of Dando with you. It wasn't until high school that I began to really grasp what it was you did for work. What I did know and what I do recall is I always knew you'd be there for the important things. I could also see the way others beheld you, and I knew you had a profound impact on those who spent time with you. I still light up today when I get to tell people what my dad does for work. Thank you for architecting a career in life that has given us everything we could have wanted and more. I'm so grateful for you and grateful for the many years you've devoted to serve others in our family. Thank you, Daddy. I love you.
Oh, I love you, Lauren. Thank you.
All right, Trav, take us home.
Thank you.
Kirk Allen. I mention your middle name because, as you know, Lauren and I named our son Shepherd Allen after you. Not because it has a nice ring to it or we like the initials it makes, but because if there is a man we hope Shepherd emulates as he gets older, it is you. Your generosity, your empathy, your EQ, your integrity, your faith, your masculinity, your gentleness, your strength, your business acumen. All of those traits are things you excel at. And it is certainly not an exhaustive list of things that you're exceptional at. There are things that I have shared with you about my struggles in my life that I would venture to say 99.99% of sons-in-laws would never share with their father-in-law. Yet I do. Even after you're long gone from this world and you're asking Jesus several questions in a row, Shepherd will introduce himself using his middle name and smile with immense pride because of what his Bubba showed him about grit, determination, and faith. I love you, Travis.
I love you. Thank you.
Well, we've talked about the power of words and what that can mean.
Thank you.
Yeah, so collectively, we love you and we are very proud of you.
Well, thank you guys. The power of words. I don't know that I've ever had anybody do something like this for me. So thank you guys.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the special episode with my family. It wasn't a how-to, but a moment to reflect on where leadership really starts and who it's really for. I haven't done it perfectly. Most of us haven't, but we can't let that keep us from investing at home. In this next episode, we shift gears, but not focus. While leadership starts at home, it's getting tested everywhere else. And right now, AI is one of the biggest tests we've seen in a generation. It's not just changing workflows. It's reshaping roles, revealing blind spots, and quietly replacing work that used to feel untouchable. I'm not here to hype it or dismiss it. I'm here to tell you what I'm hearing behind closed doors, what really smart leaders are actually doing with AI, where they're succeeding, where they're stuck, and what it's exposing about all of us. If you're leading anything right now, this is an episode you won't want to miss.
Thank you for tuning in to the For You Leaders podcast with Kirk Dando. If this episode helped you think more clearly or act more decisively, that's good. But the journey doesn't stop there. Subscribe for more content on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or go to Kirk's website at kirkdando.com to inquire about coaching opportunities. Now think of a friend, family member, or business leader in your life. How could you help normalize their journey today? Share this podcast with them. We hope that this sparks meaningful conversations in your life and that it enables you to become the leader that you aspire to be.